Welcome back everybody, and if you are new here, welcome. Please consider subscribing. I put videos out weekly, and be sure to click that bell notification to get my newest videos. Okay, today I am going to make a very simple and easy recipe for sweet and sour shrimp, and here's how I do it. Okay, to start I am going to use 1 pound of deshelled, cleaned, and deveined extra large shrimp. Colossal or maybe even large will work. Anything smaller would be a bit tedious. Okay, to that I will be adding a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper. If you do not have white pepper, black pepper works just as well. So I'm just going to put that right on top of the shrimp, and I'm going to combine that well. I'm going to set that aside, and now I'm going to work on my batter. Here I have a large bowl, and to that I am going to add a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. Next, I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. If you are out of cornstarch or do not have any, you can definitely just use 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour and skip the cornstarch, but I do find that it adds a little different texture. Now I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and a lot of the seasonings and spices in this recipe are adjustable to your preference. I'm also going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of granulated onion powder, and then I'm going to give that a good mix. Okay, so now that this is completely combined, I am going to add 4 ounces of mineral water. Particularly, I love to keep Topo Chico in my house. For those of you that watch me regularly know that. But you could use any mineral water or sparkling water of your choice. And if you don't have either, you could also just use cold water. That works. Now, I always do this. I mix with a spoon, but ultimately you'll probably want to use a whisk. So I'm going to switch this out for a whisk, and I'm going to continue mixing until it's smooth and combined. And before I forget to mention, if you are not weighing your ingredients and sort of eyeballing the flour and cornstarch in the bowl, then you may need more liquid to get that pancake batter consistency that typically you'd look for as a dredge in this type of recipe. So just bear that in mind. You may need more to add to your batter. Okay, so this is where I need it to be. So now I'm going to add the shrimp right into the bowl of the batter, and I'm going to combine and coat the shrimp. Once this is coated and combined, I'm going to set it aside until I need it. In the meantime, I want to go over the rest of the ingredients in this recipe. Now what I'm going to do is make a slurry. Here I have a 1/4 cup of cold water, and to that I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of cornstarch and give that a good mix until everything is combined and lump-free. And this is what I will be adding to my sauce later to help thicken it. Okay, so this is combined well. Now I'm going to set this aside and go over the rest of the ingredients for the sauce, or the sweet and sour sauce in this recipe. And it's very simple. There are so many ways to do this, but the way I like to do a simple recipe is a 1/3 cup of apricot preserves. And again, I will leave ingredients and measurements in the description below. I'm also going to use 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. Sometimes if I don't have tomato paste, I use 2 tablespoons of ketchup. It's up to you. But today I'm using tomato paste. And I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. The other ingredient that I will be using for the sauce that I did not show or put here is actually water. I'll be adding on a 1/3 cup of water to that as well. I'm also going to use fresh pineapple, and this is very ripe pineapple, so I have to be careful with it. I'm also using some bell pepper, and I'm going to be using some onion, and this is around a cup each. Again, I will put the weights of what I used today in the description below. Okay, so I am preheating my fry oil, and it's pretty much there. You'll want to fry this at a temp somewhere between 325, no hotter than 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I am going to be frying my shrimp in 2 batches as to not crowd the pan. You do not want to overcrowd the pan. And I am going to use the double fry method. I am going to fry the shrimp once for around a minute, remove it, and then once I'm done going through both batches of frying it once, I'm going to put it right back into the hot oil and fry again for another minute or so. Basically, if you are using a very thawed shrimp in this recipe, the cook time will be a couple of minutes. Shrimp does not take a long time to cook, and you do not want to overcook it. But if you are using shrimp that is super cold or semi-frozen, you better believe the cook time will definitely vary. So bear that in mind when you make this. Okay, so I'm just going to continue frying this, and I'm going to speed things up a bit. Okay, so my shrimp is done. Now I'm ready to make the sauce. Here I have a large skillet, basically to be able to move and fry things around in the pan. You can use the skillet or pan or wok of your choice. I've added a couple tablespoons of oil, and now I am going to quickly saute my onion and bell pepper. I definitely want them to still have a bite or texture to them, so I'm not going to overcook them. I'm just going to give them a quick saute, then I'm going to remove them from the pan, set aside, and now I'm going to work on the actual sauce. Here in the same pan, I am going to add my 3rd cup of apricot preserve. And I do want to say I am not working with a high heat. You do not want to burn any sugars at this point, so you want to work with a medium heat, just watch for it. I'm also going to add my 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. You can also substitute, like I mentioned earlier, the tomato paste with some ketchup. Just know that the flavor will change because ketchup does have sugar and vinegar in it. Okay, I'm going to give this a whisk and a mix just to combine and cook out that tomato paste just for maybe a minute. It just depends. I don't want to burn it, but I'm just going to continue combining it. And now, once it's all cooked out and combined, I am going to add a 3rd cup of water. Again, if you are not weighing your measurements and just eyeballing things, you might want to add a little more water. It depends on the consistency of sauce, if you want it super thick or if you want to thin it out. So just bear that in mind. And also, when adding your apricot preserve, your tomato paste, and now I'm going to go ahead and add my tablespoon of vinegar. If you want extra punch, if you want it more sour than sweet, then adjust the vinegar. And if you want more sweetness, maybe add a little bit of sugar. But I find when using apricot preserve, it has enough sugar content to balance out any sour taste from the vinegar. So now I'm just going to continue combining this and letting it simmer. And as you can see, it actually is thick. but I do want it to coat the shrimp well and not just sog it up. So that is where the cornstarch slurry comes in. So I am going to add the cornstarch slurry right into the pan, and as you can see, it is going to thicken very quickly. Once your sauce is combined and thickened, you'll want to add the onion, bell pepper, and the pineapple. But I did not add the pineapple because the fresh pineapple I had was actually overripe, but I still wanted to use it instead of tossing it out because it's still good. It's super sweet, but I didn't want to muddle it in the sauce, so I sort of folded it in after I combined everything. But if you're using something from a can or your pineapple is not overripe, you'll want to add it right now to the sauce. And now you'll add the shrimp. And basically you're just going to toss everything. My heat is off at this point, and that is it. You are ready to serve this super easy, simple, delicious, sweet and sour shrimp. This is the way I like to make simple and easy sweet and sour shrimp. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.